everyone, I'm Tristan44 and welcome to this Let's Play of Blades of Avernum. Last episode, we managed to kill the dragon Galthrax. It was a hell of a fight because the guy hit harder than anything else, but we managed to do it. However, Phaedra fell. Fortunately, I think we'll be able to get her back if we can get back to, if we can get back to, the main area, but that's gonna take a while. Do you wish to proceed on towards Vastulis and finish your quest? No, I'm not ready yet. I kind of want to get back to... I can't, can I? I guess we have no choice. Let's continue on towards Vastulis. Yes, onward. Not far from the cliff exit from Mount Galthrax, you are met by Ithic. He seems much better healed than he was after the fight, with just a small limp and a few cuts and scratches. Presumably, he quaffed a healing potion. Follow me, and we shall talk. You do. You show Ithic how badly injured Phaedra is. He inspects her carefully, and then he pulls a vial out of his cloak. He wipes some liquid over Phaedra's wounds, and they stop bleeding. She will be fine for the moment. The healers in Vastulis will be able to do more for her. Let us get her there. Tell me about Vastulis. All right. He's walking backwards. 100 years ago, Vastulis was a mighty city on the edge of the Slith Empire. It was a large city, despite its remote location. The river was safe to travel then. The river east of the city, not to be confused with the river flowing from Mount Galthrax, the one you encountered, was the main shipping line between the center of the Empire and Vastulis. It was the main source of trade and prosperity. However, over time, the river grew more dangerous to travel. Eventually, the centers of the civilization lost contact with the city. We don't know much about what happened then because the inhabitants currently in Vastulis aren't from there. They are from Basikava and the outpost, and the guard post. Okay then. Interesting. Basikava and the guard post. Yes. Do you know the story of the demon invasion of Basikava? You reply in the affirmative. Good. Do you know where the southern Basikavans went after the invasion? You reply in the negative. That is our story. We do not know where others went, and presumably most died, but some Basikavans fled through the newly opened hole in the wall to the east, which led them into the homeland for the first time in centuries. They did not recognize it, of course. The land south of the guard post is inhospitable. Fight them! It is our only chance! Help me! Phew. As they continued north, they found another group of sliths displaced by the tremendous cavequake. They found the guard post sliths. The lost ones! Yes, it is us. We have returned. But how? The cavequake. Through demons and dark worms, past the ravages of quakes and the ruins of our civilization, we have come, seeking at last your pardon for wrongs done by our ancestors against your ancestors. The sliths of the guard post were faced with a difficult situation. They had sworn holy oaths when they were first stationed at the steel doors never to let the exiles back into the homeland. However, circumstances were extreme. Sir, we were given orders and swore on our lives to prevent these exiles from returning to our empire. I know, Kalnor, but tell me, when was the last time when we heard from the empire? Exactly. We have not received word or, more importantly, replacements, because as we all know, we were only supposed to be here for 5 years. Since the last arrival nearly 20 years ago. And the couriers we've sent have never once returned. Sir, are you suggesting... Yes, Ponos. I am saying that we are cut off. We cannot get home. Our oaths are meaningless now. The dangers of the river are better barriers than the steel doors ever were. We should take the exiles in as our own. Sir, I have an idea. Yes? Before communications were cut off, the nearest city was Vascalis, just north of here. They've been cut off from the Empire for as long as we have, but there's a chance that their city might still exist. Let us join with the Basikavans and try to reach Vascalis. There we may plan our next move, or try to get home. Yes, let it be so. So our ancestors, the Basikavans and the Guardpost Sliths, headed north to Vascalis. However, what they found was not what they were expecting. Sir! Yes? The city is destroyed and abandoned. I found no one left inside its walls. It seems that the worst has truly come to pass. We are alone. We lost contact with Vascalis several years before we lost contact with the central region of the Empire. Their defenses must have failed years ago. As I see it, we have a decision. Either we turn east and find the river, and from there make an attempt to find our way back to civilization, a choice fraught with peril, since none of your scouts sent down the river from the guard post have ever returned, or else we may choose to stay. Stay? Where? Here? Why not? Whatever menaced the city is gone. The soil is still fertile, even if weeds have infested the crops, and all we must do is tend these crops and rebuild a few buildings before we have a good place to settle. I agree. Let us settle here. And that was how Vascalis was founded. We are the children of Basikavans and Sliths of the homeland. We live in the ruins of Vascalis as we have for nearly 60 years. Why did you stop? We are almost there. We are about to enter Vascalis. This is it. Your party contains the first Slith from Avernum proper to return to a city in the homeland since the exile more than 200 years ago. You are about to complete a greater deed than any done by a Slith in these 2 dark centuries. You approach the ancient and shattered gates. You stare, marveling at the glorious and venerable Slitherikai architecture. These city walls have stood for decades, even after the city was sacked. They are taller than the walls around Formello, rivaling even those around the castle. The gates themselves were destroyed long ago. The rubble only partly remains. Even the road is overgrown with mushrooms, sprouting up and breaking cracks through the rock path. Ithic stops at the ruins of the gates. It appears that he sees someone. Ithic! Talos! The 2 Sliths converse in the Basikavan language. Fortunately, you understand enough of it to comprehend their conversation. You've been gone so long. I didn't think I'd make it back. I was imprisoned by demons. Demons? It's a long story, and it will have to wait. I bring visitors. Visitors from beyond the steel doors. Beyond the steel doors? Then you come with Basikavans? They do not look like Basikavans. They are not. They are Avernites. There is much beyond those doors, much about which we knew little. We should not just stand here talking. We should bring our visitors inside. They come from Avernum. Avernum? Beyond the steel doors, past Basikava. Together we slew the dragon. They slew the dragon! The dragon. That is a mighty accomplishment. We are greatly in your debt, adventurers. But we must know. Why have you come? We in Vascalis have not had visitors in our 60 years here. Why did you come? Tell him about Laguerre. We come from a Slith who calls himself the Prophet. Very interesting. But where are my manners? You must be exhausted. Ithic, take them to a place where they may rest. We will talk tomorrow. Ithic leads you to a room that, like everything else around here, was once luxurious but has now fallen into disrepair. You rest there for a long night. In the morning, Ithic returns. Come, there is much to discuss. Ithic leads you back to the chief. After much questioning, you tell him about Laguerre and how you came here. If the dragon is dead, the mountain is safe to cross. I will send messengers to Laguerre. He and his followers may come here. I must hear the full story of these strange Avernite Sliths. A day passes. You rest more, healing from your long dungeon battles in the tunnels under Basikava, in ancient Basikava, and in Mount Galthrax. You spend some time reflecting on your achievements as well. Of all your adventures, this one has meant to the most people. An entire race of being, all Avernite Slithzerakai have been helped by your deeds. Then you receive word that Laguerre has arrived. You are summoned again to the chief's throne room to witness the meeting at last between the leader of the returning exiles and the leader of the nearest city of homeland Sliths. In dreams she came to me with whispers soft, to tell me now was the time foretold, when to our home we would return with joy, receiving welcome, cousin to cousin, estranged races meeting at long last. To home we go, to home unknown, unseen, unheard but not unfelt, unwanted, loved. As prodigal Slithzerakai we come, and humbly beg forgiveness generous of brethren wronged, God scorned, land failed. To make amends our goal, with malice none. We now embrace our just, true cousin's home. Where wounds forgot, new hopes shall soon arise. Laguerre's reverberant voice fades away, but the surrounding Slith warriors and priests still stand transfixed. Such is his power that even the chief stares at him, his eyes filled with wonder. Truly you are welcome here, prophet. You and yours may stay as long as you desire. Thank you, wise chief. Now I far better understand the history of my people. During the attack of demons that destroyed ancient Basikava, the North Basikavans fled up and founded the Basikava that I knew. But the South Basikavans fled east and ran into homeland Sliths, in the guard post. And together they went north and founded Vasculis. I greet you friendly, cousin. The two exchange a long glance. You know that they will discuss a great deal in the coming months. And now I must congratulate my scouts who cleared the way. Phaedra! You have done what I asked. You may take your leave of our heroes. Phaedra turns to you. It was fun working with you, Fox. We did it, you know. I know you'll do well in the future. Kill some baddies for me. You know, I was sent here from Fort Dranlon with orders to report back if I thought you, Laguerre, were dangerous, and forces from the fort would come and destroy you and your following. I think I can report to them that you are dangerous to no one. Laguerre smiles. That is swell. I have further good news for Fox and the others. You decided earlier to travel with us, but that was long ago, and you may have changed your mind. We have found another exit through one of the tunnels in Mount Galthrax. You can return to Avernum, or, if you choose, you may stay with us. Either way, we will not journey on for a long time. We have much to learn here first, and we must gather supplies as well. Alas, I do not have a reward for your undeniably great service, but you may travel on with the intense satisfaction of a job very, very well done. Someday we may have need of you again. Until then, farewell. A long moment passes between you and Laguerre. You have brought him an incredible distance. You have reached the farthest extent of Basikava and the final remnant of Basikavans. Vasculis is as far as it goes. Past this, Basikava is not touched. You have brought him far, but you know that his journey is just beginning. Vasculis is broken off from the center of Slith civilization. He must travel much farther to reach the homeland that he has sought his whole life. And when he goes, you may go with him. But for now you will rest here in Vasculis, and perhaps return to Avernum for a time. Then, when you are ready, you may return to Laguerre and join the Exodus. The end. Wow, I didn't realize that dragon fight was actually the end of it. Not exactly the best ending picture in my opinion, but still. That was quite a thing. Okay. My opinion on all of this. I've given my opinion as I've gone through it, and, well, bits and pieces here and there, so let me give my final opinion on this story, on this scenario. Long as it was. Bloody hell, that was a long scenario. The story has been very interesting. and I believe it's been very well written. Why am I blanking on the author's name? Calandon, that's it. Calandon did a very good job writing the story. He kept it interesting, and there have been a lot of points where I've wondered things, had questions and the like. And all the cutscenes have been very well done, and I've enjoyed watching them and reading them. There's been a lot of the dialogues and the like are very well written. It's a very very enjoyable story. The story of the prophet, the story of them going back into their homeland. I have very much liked that. And some of the ideas he had for some of these battles were interesting in concept. Things like the dragon going, okay, I'm a bit wounded, I'm going to remove all of your buffing spells because you annoy me. Or things like, way earlier, taking a member of your team and basically removing him and turning him against you in a way. Which was then brought about when one of the other Sliths said, have you ever had to fight one of your own or kill people you formerly cared about? That kind of worked out. In concept. However, this is not a perfect scenario. There are flaws, especially in balance. Now, Calandon has said things like you should go into fights with all your buffing spells, or this is meant to be a very hard scenario for those who play on hard. Now, if it's the latter, okay, fine, I'll grant it. I'm not an expert with building my characters and all that kind of stuff. However, that doesn't stop the fact that there were many, many areas that were incredibly frustrating, way more than they should have. And when it comes to balance, Calandon really needed to do some work to adjust that. Almost every single fight was intended to be done with every single buff you had cast upon you, with you thinking hard and working hard to make sure that every fight was a fight to the death where you were on the verge of dying every single time. And that is not the way you should do these. Whenever you do these kinds of fights, whenever you do these kinds of dungeon crawls, you should only have that for the final boss fights, the big, difficult fights. Not every fight should be that. For example, let's look at this area here. You have, thinking back to the 9 variations on point B. You start here. You have to get to here. This is where the big fight is. This is the final boss fight. Okay, fine. That has to be incredibly difficult. You have to fight very hard in order to defeat it. You need all your spells, all your buffs, all your skills, all of that in this final area. Fine. That works out. However, everything else in here should not be that hard. This area, sure, it can be a bit difficult. Not as difficult as here, but a bit difficult. It makes sense for it. However, this area was very difficult to deal with. This area was very difficult to deal with. This area I don't remember, but I think it was tricky to deal with. These areas don't need to be that hard. You can cast some of your... The way I see it, you can cast some of your spells in order to make it a bit easier, but it shouldn't be able to. And when you're running through these halls, it should be at a point where, if it's narrow enough, you don't have to even enter combat. You can just run up to a guy, smack him a few times, and he dies. And you can run through it without problem, without using up every single spell point in all of your health. And that happened so many times, everywhere. There were also a lot of periods where there was a lack of direction. You remember my frustration with figuring out some puzzles, especially the one with where they took control of one of my characters away from me. There was no information, no clue on what you were supposed to do. You were never told you had the ritual of sanctification at any time. The only time in all the scenarios I've played where you were told you have the ritual of sanctification was when you got it in one of the included scenarios, which then ended by saying, at the end of the scenario, you're not going to have this anymore. So as far as I knew, I didn't have the ritual of sanctification, and there was no indication that I would have had it. And that was a huge, huge bother. And I really did not like it. What else? And there was another thing here. Ithic. He was on the first level. There was no indication that he was on the first level. I followed the logic that there seemed to be that I could find for myself. That he wouldn't be charging through the other hordes of undead creatures and everything everywhere. No, 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 no. He'd be going through paths that didn't have any enemies. So I followed that path, and that led me down to here. In here, where there were because there were no enemies between where I was and the entrance to here. So as far as I knew, Ithic was down here, but he wasn't. He was up above, which involved going through several other enemies. And it turned out there was a secret passage that we would never have seen. That wasn't, he didn't give out the information well. There were a few puzzles, though, that I did kind of like, in a way. I remember that one puzzle with the 5 things that I had to figure out. Power, security, all that sort of stuff. I like that puzzle. It was a nice break, and it was a nice ending. I like that. And I do like his idea that you have to fully explore everywhere, and if you do, you'll get a lot of assistance that will help you a lot in the final battle in the region. I like that idea. And I think it did kind of work out. I mean, granted, in this fight, it wasn't that helpful. Unless there were other areas that I missed that provided more assistance. We got 5 golems, each of which was essentially instantly killed the moment they got anywhere close to the dragon, and Ithic, who, well, died instantly when the dragon turned his gaze upon him. Although we did actually also kill the 2 generals who would have been summoned in to help him. So that was also something nice. It also worked out. It worked a lot better against the demon. I can't remember his name. Cost something. I don't remember. The demon, it worked out a lot better. We got a lot of other sliths. We got a lot of spirits. We got a lot of imps. It was a massive fight, and I loved that. That was really entertaining. And Calandon himself even said he loved that fight, and loved that kind of thing. I look forward to seeing more of that. That said, this scenario is done. But as was hinted in the final bit, there is another that follows this. Exodus. I was told it was just as long, and he did say, go do some other scenarios so you don't have all these long ones at the beginning, but I still want to do all the scenarios that are connected to each other at the start so that I can get them out of the way and done. So I'm going to follow up with Exodus. This time, I'm going to make sure all my characters are of the appropriate level. It'll be a little bit of effort beforehand just to make sure it's done, but I'll make sure that's taken care of. Hopefully it is the right level, and we don't have as much frustration and annoyance and irritation as previously. So that is the end of that. What does the scenario say it's recommended for? 55 to 70. Draco is way under-leveled. But 55 to 70? I'm definitely going to have to bring them into the HLPM and get them a bit higher. Just a couple levels. But hopefully it will be enough. We'll see Exodus soon, but that'll be in the next episode. So until then, I am Chester44, that is Fox, Shriek, Bonnie, and Draco. This has been a Blades of Avernum Let's Play, and I shall see you all next time.